Hello everyone, welcome to this video on exception handling using try except finally and try except else statement. Friends, while working on large real-time application, we generally read data from .csv file, JSON file. Also, we store and retrieve data from database like MySQL and other databases. But we have to make sure that after using this file or a database, we should close the file handle and the connection to the database. Otherwise, there may be undesirable effect. But file may not be closed properly if there is some critical error, and same way database connection may not be closed if there is some critical error and application gets closed. But we have to make sure that the file is closed properly and the database connection is also closed properly. So how can we achieve this? So Python provides a mechanism to achieve this particular objective using try except and finally block. We will practically see how we can achieve this objective using try except finally block. Also we learn what is try except and else statement and how to use finally as well as else statement. In last video we have already seen how to use try and except using 2-3 practical examples. If you have not seen that video, first you may see that video and then jump to this video. So before jumping into the practical demonstration of try except finally, let me tell you few important points about try except finally block. So finally is a keyword used to create a block of statement which gets executed whether an exception occurs or not, and we can write code for cleanup action in this finally block. Means we can write code for closing file handle and for closing database connections within this finally block. The syntax of try except finally block is like this. So here is a try keyword and the statements within the try block. Then we have a except, the name of the exception is the object of this exception, and then some block of statements to handle this exception, and then we have a finally keyword and the block of statements under the finally block. And here we can define that cleanup action, means we can write code for closing file or database connection. A great advantage of using finally block is that even if our program crashes, we will be able to do these critical operations such as closing connection to database or closing an open file handle. Something important to note about the finally block is that finally block is executed irrespective of whether exception occurs or not. But if exception occurs, it is executed after the execution of except block. Now let us switch to Jupyter Notebook to see the practical demonstration of try except finally and try except else statements. Now let us practically see how we can use try except finally. So here is a simple program without finally block. Let me briefly revise what we have done in last video. So we have a try keyword with a colon, and here is a statement to read integer number. If we enter integer number from keyboard, then it will store that number in x, and that value of x is printed over here, and that time it will not execute this except block. It will directly jump after the statement. It will directly jump to the statement which is written after the except block, that is this one. Now let us run this program, and here it is asking for a number, say for example 9. So you entered number 9 by this program. So this statement is not executed. Now let us run it again, and now let us enter some unexpected input, and now we can see that it is executing this particular statement. Means we entered invalid input, and hence it has not executed this particular statement because directly from this statement it jumps to this except block, and hence it has printed oops, that was not a valid number, and then finally comes out from the except block. So this is how the simple try except block works. Now let us see how we can use finally keyword to create block of statements to perform cleanup actions. So very first thing is we have to write this particular finally keyword over here after except block. Just remember that we have to write the finally block after except block, and here let us print a message finally block is executed. Just to demonstrate and for simplicity, we are just printing a message. Otherwise here we can define some cleanup actions that we'll see little later on. But here just try to understand that here we have a try and except block, and then after that we are defining a finally block using finally keyword. Just don't forget to keep this colon after finally keyword, and then you can write any statements after the finally. So that statements will be considered under the finally block. And now let us run it. And now let us say for example we enter number 10. So we can see that it is giving output that you enter number 10, and then there is a statement finally block is executed, and then finally the last statement of the program. So here we can see that when program is executed normally, then finally block is executed. Now let us run it again and let us enter some invalid input. And here we can see that this time this printf statement is not executed because there is an exception, because we entered the wrong input, and hence it has directly jumped to this accept block and it has printed, oops, that was not a valid number, try again, and then the statement within the finally block is executed. Let's see here. So we can see that whether there is an exception or not, but the statements which are defined within the finally block are always executed. Now suppose I want to use try except finally with file management concept. Means I want to open a file and I want to write some data to that file. Here is a function open to open a file from this particular location. That is, we have to specify path to the file that we want to use, and then here we have to specify the mode of operation, that is a read or write. So if we want to write data, then we have to specify W. If you want to read, then we have to specify R over here, and this is the file handle. And within the try block we are reading integer number similar to the previous program, then we are printing, but over here we have added one more statement, means f.write. So write function is used to write data to file. Fine, we are writing the same statement within this particular file also. So you entered number plus str, because the x is a number, so we need to convert it to string before concatenating the string with this particular number, and this statement will write the data. But just remember that if we are entering the invalid input, means we are not entering the integer number, then exception will occur and it will directly jump to this except block and it will print this statement. Means these two statements will not be executed, means the file which we have opened still remains open, but in finally block we are closing this file using this statement f.close is used to close the file, and then we are printing the message file closed successfully. So here we are opening the file and we are closing file in finally. If we are not defining a finally block, then these statements will not be executed at all. So this is an example of cleanup action that we can define in a finally block while using a file. Now let us run it. Say for example we enter some data, say for example 15, and here we can see that you entered 15 and file closed successfully, and then end of the program. Fine, and now let us see that this number 15 with this string should be written within this particular test.text file, right? It's over here in programs data and this is test.x. So here we can see that you entered number 15 and here data test.text file. Now again let us run it and let us enter some say number 100. Now let us reload this file, open the file. We can see that you entered number 100 is written to this file. But say for example if we enter some invalid input from here, now let us see that file will be closed, right? But this data, this string will not be returned to that particular file. We can see that this statement is not printed over here, and same way this statement is also not executed because it has directly jumped from here to this exception, and hence it has printed this particular statement, and then it is executing this finally block, closes the file and prints the statement file closed successfully, and then end of the program. Now let us check the content of file. It has opened this file but data is not written because there was an exception, but it is closed properly and hence there is no undesirable, and then finally the program terminated without writing to this particular file. So this is how we can use try except finally statement or blocks to handle exceptions. Now let us look at try except else statement. Else block gets executed only if no exception occurs, that is if try block gets executed correctly, and this try except else statement allows us to define finishing actions to be performed when exception does not occur. So the syntax of try except else statement is similar, and here is the syntax. So try and except block as usual, then we have a else keyword and then colon, and then we have some statements that defines the action to be performed when no exception occurs. So if exception occurs, then this else block will not be executed. But if there is no exception, means if there is no runtime error, then only this else block is executed. Now let us look at the practical demonstration of else block. So it is similar. So we have a try block similar to the previous example, and then we have a except block. We are printing the same message, and here similar to the finally keyword we have a else keyword with colon, and here we have print statement that this else block is executed after successful execution of try block. And now let us run it, enter some number, so we can see that you enter this and else block is executed after successful execution of try. So here there is no error. Fine, let us run it again and let us enter some invalid input, and we can see that now this statement is not printed, only this except block statement, because error has occurred. We entered invalid input and hence there is a runtime error, and hence it has printed this particular statement. So this else block is only executed if program execution is completed normally. If there is an exception or a runtime error, this else block is not executed. So the difference between finally close and else close is else only gets executed when no exception occurs, and finally gets executed whether an exception gets raised or not. So that's all. Now the task for you: write a program to evaluate b is equal to a divided by a minus 3. Find out what are the possible exceptions that can occur and use exception handling to avoid crashing of the program. Now after writing this program, you can paste your program in our comment section of this particular video. I will review your program and I will give you the appropriate feedback. Friends, if you really liked this video, please hit the like button and share with your friends. If you want to receive updates regarding the new videos and the latest developments in the field of data science, machine learning and artificial intelligence, please don't forget to subscribe our channel and hit the bell icon so that you can receive all the notifications. That's all. Thanks for watching. Have a great time.